All right, so today I'm going to be talking about what we're missing during the school, or what we're missing when supporting autistic students through their eyes and experience. Slide. And so, as a parent advocate, and then having two girls in the school system, I have a unique perspective on this. So, today, with the learning objectives, I want you guys to understand there's obviously unique challenges to autistic students in traditional public learning environments. I want you guys to identify at least 3 different ways to become more inclusive and supportive for our kiddos, and then recognize the importance of acceptance in creating academic success for our kids. Slide. So obviously, when if we're going through the school day or the school year, navigation challenges will be a big one, especially if they're like kindergarten or first grade. You know, these young ones have no idea where to go. Hopefully, have something set up ahead of time, because autistic kids usually see things in bits, so they have a hard time generating cognitive maps of new spaces, and they're not able to recognize landmarks. So maybe going through a routine of where to go, and they have someone that can help them with this for a good several days. It may look different for kids that are in kindergarten, second grade versus like third and fifth, where they have it down more pat versus like a fresh student. And then wayfinding can also apply to digital spaces like websites and apps. My teenage daughter, she went to online schooling last year, and she had a horrible time because it was just the format of fonts, the layout of the website was different. She did not like it at all. So even having trouble with that can be very difficult. You may have to walk them through that. Slide, please. And then auditory overload. So like if you're entering school as, a kindergarten kid, the next stop would be the cafeteria. And this is like one of the, noisiest places. In our school, we have like all the grades from K through fifth grade in one space. And that can be very overwhelming for a kiddo. But up to 86% of autistic kids may experience auditory hypersensitivity. So obviously the huge space like cafeteria and lobbies are a high traffic area that can cause stress. You may need to walk them through it. You may need to provide headphones or earplugs, or maybe they may need to have a different space entirely. Like sometimes teachers will take a kiddo up to their room to have breakfast because it's a lot quieter. And then also supporting the auditory processing. So you want to give autistic kids think time, maybe like 6-second pause before you ask them another prompt. And then also try to use the same words, so that way you're not overloading with so many new verbiage. Slide, please. And then for food, on top of that, with the noise level, there's different foods, there's different smells that can be overwhelming for a kiddo. Preferably, if they are able to, maybe have their parents bring in food, but if they can't, maybe bring in some snacks that have high nutritional value, like, jerky or some kind of protein. With one of our kiddos a few years ago, there was always a time where this kid would have like a meltdown. He would get under the table and refuse to do work. And then finally we're like, well, maybe he's just hungry. And so we started to give him jerky, and the meltdown stopped. So maybe keeping an eye on like what they're eating for breakfast, for lunch, if they ate anything at all. But yes, we autistics sometimes stick to safe foods, like beige foods like crackers and chips, and something that obviously it has no nutritional value. Next slide. But if you do have time, maybe you could try to introduce them to new different foods that are healthier. And you could use Emily Kushner's 7 ways to support a picky eater. Rule out medical issues, obviously, stay calm, take steps toward tasting, tune into textures, play with food, offer choice and control, and then be careful with the rewards, like that it's not candy or anything like junk food. Next slide. And then recess is also an overlooked area because it can last anywhere from 10 to 35 minutes. And usually the gen ed teacher is not going to be present. Usually it's going to be other staff members out there on the playground. And this can leave an autistic student feeling very like, left out in the wind. Like, what do I do? And what I've noticed is that kids will usually walk around the perimeter. Maybe they'll be standing next to the door or hanging next to adults. And then sometimes they'll also be hanging around the proximity of other kiddos, like because they don't know how to initiate, oh, hey, I'm going to go up to this group of kids and play what? They have no understanding most times of what they're playing. So you may need to have like adult guidance, which is listed below, keys to success. If they're feeling a little bit nervous about recess, have those picture cards, have those visual schedules. You may need to go out there with them and guide them. Like, this set of kids are playing Ring Around the Rosie or Duck, Duck, Goose. And hey, let's include so-and-so here and explain the rules too. And definitely incorporate their interests. Like if they love soccer, maybe create a whole game one day out of the week where everyone in the classroom plays soccer, for recess. Next slide. And then also PE, another area where it's definitely loud and unfamiliar because there's different equipment being thrown around. Sometimes if it's a free-for-all, it will feel very scary for an autistic kiddo. Not just the equipment, but the noise level too. So they may need headphones and earplugs or sensory break. And also modeling when they lose, because sometimes boys, what I've noticed, don't know how to lose. Or maybe when they win, they're very over boisterous about winning. So going over how to win and how to lose would be a good idea. And PE teachers should definitely be inclusive in their activities, not just picking the same kids to, pick their teams and then leaving the autistic student at the very end to be picked last. Maybe having that kid be the team captain. And then also the sense of justice, that's a huge one. I've definitely noticed a lot of behaviors over my years, that it will most times happen during PE or recess or, at lunch. Let's see, modify unfair situations, which I mentioned before, maybe having them pick out their teams, or maybe they could be the referee, and then also explaining some of the games, because most kids don't know how to play dodgeball, or they don't know how to play basketball or baseball. Okay, next slide. And then handwriting. So I have interventions with kids from 3rd through 5th grade. And I've noticed like quite a few 5th graders have this haphazard way of writing. We definitely aren't spending enough time with handwriting like we used to, when I was in school. So 60% of autistic students struggle with handwriting. What I do in my interventions is I use cushion grips or triangular pencils, and then lined paper where it's highlighted on the bottom. So that way they know there's a guide there for the lowercase letters that they should stay in. And then also I focus on letter formation families. So like C starts in a counterclockwise direction. So then you teach O and A, D, G, Q, and so on. And then obviously create a calm environment, like maybe put on some relaxing music or, have some snacks. So it makes it seem like, a good thing instead of what's the word? I'm at loss for words here. Next slide. And then assessment hurdle. So at the end of this, I included a picture of my daughter where she would, in first grade, shut down during her assessments. So for autistic kids, it's a sensory overload. There's communication barriers. It's a routine disruption. And then there's, some social interaction, especially with a new person that is giving these assessments. And then they have trouble with generalization, like what they're learning in class looks totally different from what's on a computer screen or a paper assessment. So they don't know how to carry it over, and you may need to pre-teach that. Also, motivation, they have no understanding. So you may need to coach, okay, this is what we're doing. We do it once a week, or maybe it's once a month, and create an assessment plan for these kids. Like if someone's out that day, that usually gives the assessment. Maybe are they comfortable with someone new, or maybe hold it off for another day. But yeah, my daughter, she would, this was first grade, and I was a stay-at-home mom. She would just shut down, and I decided to come in and see for myself what was happening. But yeah, like maybe 1 or 2 minutes in, she would just completely go silent. And for her, she wasn't able to speak up and say, "Hey, I don't understand, what we're doing here." But in the end, we ended up creating a sticker chart for her. Back then, she liked Garfield, so we'd give her Garfield stickers. Okay, next slide. And then that brings the silent struggle, and then being able to self-advocate for yourself. 40 to 65% of autistics have alexithymia, which means you have emotional blindness. So sometimes you will need to teach and model the different types, and then communication. You need to create scripts or sentence starters like, well, how do you feel about recess? I feel okay about recess. I feel excited about recess. Have those scripts ready. Or what I like to do is, if they're able to follow along with books, I like to read Piggy and Gerald, because that also explains different emotions. And sometimes if I have two kids, I'll assign, one Gerald and the other one Piggy. And then celebrate their attempts. If they're saying, well, I don't know how I feel about the assessment, I don't know how to feel about this new teacher, then definitely celebrate that. Next slide. So yeah, here's the picture of my daughter when she was trying to take her assessments back and forth, first grade, where she would just clam up and just zone out. Like you can see it in her eyes where she's just disassociating, right? But now she's a freshman in high school, and she talks nonstop now. Next slide. And then here again, visiting her out on the playground, I noticed she would just be off on her own. She didn't really say, "Hey mom, let's go play with my friends," and that could have been my big flag, oh, hey, there's something definitely here. But back then I was just grateful that she would just hang out with me. But yeah, that's my slide. If you have any questions, you can email me. Yeah.
Christiane, thank you so much. It is really an honor to have a self-advocate talking and a parent talking, bringing your perspective in. What questions or comments do we have? You can unmute directly or put those in the chat for Christiane. And I just have to say, you brought back good memories of Piggy and Gerald. Thank you. It's been a long time since I had kids on my lap reading that.
Great job, Christiane. Would you mention something about the buddy bench at school?
Oh yeah, the buddy bench. So Jen, our PBIS person at the elementary put in a buddy bench for this school year. And so the kids will go up, if they don't have anyone to play with, they'll go and sit on it. And then the idea is that any other kids that notice them sitting there, they will go up to them and invite them to play. And yeah, I've definitely seen it in use a few times, so it works.
What a great idea. Have you heard how the buddy bench has been received? I don't know, Julie, has your daughter used it, or do you know, like, what are the kids saying about it?
Well, both of my girls are in high school, so they missed out on the buddy bench, but but yeah, if someone doesn't know what to do or they are feeling left out, usually I'm far away. I'm not like right there, you know, lingering over the bench, but they'll just come right up to them and kind of give a gesture, and then they'll just walk off together, which is awesome to see in action.
Yeah, it's a good school norm. I think all the kids are trained on it now, and so they often see the kid on the buddy bench before the adults do. So that's kind of cool.
I love it. Any other questions for Christiane? I have a question, Christiane. Do you have advice for other parents? And this is not, I know our target audience are educators and those working in the school, but ways to communicate with those parents or help empower those parents to be advocates for their children?
Yeah, so I was let know, like, I don't know, probably through a phone call initially with my daughter, and just having that open line of communication by email or text, letting them know what's going on. And I absolutely wanted to be right there and see for myself, what was happening, like in what time of day or what subjects or whatever. So I started coming into the classroom like when my girls were first grade or second grade. And that's how I eventually got hired on, is because they had open spot. And I was like, well, I could be in the same building with my girls. But I think that more parents should want to see what their kids are learning or how they're taking in this new material or environment for themselves.
Thanks. Tom, did you have a question?
Oh, Christiane, I was just wondering, it struck me when you said, like, how do you feel about school? And I find when I ask patients with autism, like, how do you feel about school? I used to do that. And how do you feel about school? And it would be met with like not a lot of answers. But if I get real specific and say, what about school were you most excited about, or is there something that was most scary about school today? Like, I get way more information. Would you comment on how that
I personally
might
feel
be
about
perceived?
school?
Yeah, thank you.
Well, school's so different now. It's not the same as it was. Like, we're not, I guess it's so much hustle and bustle, it feels like. And I think for some of our kids, it's too much. Some of the meltdowns and just behaviors happen like kindergarten and first grade and second grade. And then it kind of just chills out or goes down as they get into third and fourth and fifth grade. But then once they go to middle school, it's all over again. Like, we have kids that are just not able to handle going from one classroom to another, for middle school, high school, because it's a different personality for this teacher. It's a different seating arrangement for this teacher. It's a different subject. And then on top of it, direction, navigation. It's just way too much, I think. But yeah, first, I just feel it's different. And our kiddos that are on the spectrum are having an incredibly hard time. They just need to learn the basics first, maybe for their first 1 or 2 years.
And then how do we get buddy benches for every school in Idaho?
Oh,
Because I'm so impressed by that.
yeah, I'll have to look into that unless Julie would know. Do you? I have to ask Jen. She's the one that, Jen Becker.
Yeah, spread the word through the administrators and PBIS coordinators that it's a really effective strategy. And yeah, we'll have all the SPED directors put it on their email chains or something so that they can share that. Oh, Susan.
I will start building benches as soon as I get the go ahead.
Yeah, and then also maybe I wanted to include one more thing, like, the popular game is to play tag, and it's popular for those younger years. Most times kids that are on the spectrum don't realize that they're the ones that are being targeted for it all the time. Oh, you're it. And then they're having too much fun running after the other kids. And then once they tag someone else, that other kid will be like, oh, well, I don't want to play anymore. And then they're like, well, aren't the rules, supposed to be like this? And then they just get frustrated. And so that's some things that a lot of, like recess duty people miss. They don't realize, oh, that kid's being tagged all the time. And the neurotypical kids that are not on the spectrum, they could make a whole game, not, obviously tag game, but a whole like mental game out of it. And the autistic kid won't even realize. So definitely having that adult guidance out there is crucial.
I just wanted to go back to the buddy bench really quickly. Several of the elementary schools I cover have benches outside, but also we pull benches inside. And I've had benches that I haul around different wings depending on what grade level. I have a first grader that instead the inside classroom break nosy area doesn't work for him. So he goes to the bench outside his classroom. Sometimes he's under it with his bin of things and he just moves in and out by himself. The teacher will peek at him. So it's just, and I've had benches kind of go up the grade levels. He just needs it outside his classroom and that's kind of where he goes. And sometimes an adult will walk by and sit down with them. Sometimes they just want to be by themselves and take a break. But benches can be used all over inside, outside schools for regulation.
Well, that's a cool idea. Thanks for sharing that, Susan.